right, how we feeling, Flames fans? How we feeling about things? How things have gone recently? How we feeling about the final 8 games of the season? Lots to talk about on a Wednesday night edition of Flames Nation Live. Welcome to our Sportsnet 960 downtown studios. It's Pat Steinberg along with you on this Wednesday night. Thanks for being with us. Noah in first. Who else we got? Ryan. Ryan, a very simple 2-word response. It's over. Ryan is not believing. What else we got? Jordan says YOLO. Mike's in. JF's in. That is what we have got so far, and more joining on today's edition of Flames Nation Live. First of all, let me tell you that today's live podcast is brought to you by our friends at Deuce Vodka. So go check them out wherever your local liquor is purchased and procured. If your local liquor store does not have Deuce Vodka, make sure they get it in. Flames Nation Live, always brought to you by our friends at Deuce, the Celebration Vodka. Okay, let's start with this first question. As Jordan writes, do you think Daryl Sutter's a good coach for young prospects, or do you think veterans respond better to him? In that context, would the team get older in this offseason? You know, that's a fair question, Jordan. I think young players do get better under Daryl Sutter. I do. I just think that he is a hard coach on young players. I think he's a hard coach, period. I think he's a demanding coach, period. But I think that he is a guy that does make players better and does make young players better. I think that for instance, if you take a look at his time in Los Angeles, I think that Jake Muzzin and Tyler Toffoli and Tanner Pearson are all guys that I think got better and became NHLers and good NHLers under Daryl Sutter. But I also don't think it was easy, and I don't think that it was simple for them to do that. I think he rode them hard, the same way that I think that he's going to be hard and demanding on guys like Dylan Dubé and Juuso Valimaki, so on and so forth. So I believe Daryl Sutter's a good head coach, and I believe Sutter is the type of coach that can get the most out of teams, and he's the type of coach that could work if they were to go younger, Jordan. And if they were to go in a different direction in that regard. And I also think he's the type of guy that can help a group if they are trying to stay competitive and if they are trying to stay relevant in the here and now. That's kind of my feeling on where Sutter is right now. So, as I said, Ryan was the second comment and said it's over. I mean, let's be honest. This is going to be a very difficult uphill climb, because not only do the Flames need to, at the very least, probably got to win 6 of their final 8 games, they also need help from the Montreal Canadiens. Montreal's magic number is 5.5, which means all Montreal has to do is go 5-4 in their final 9 games, including tonight, and that puts Calgary in a spot where they've got to go. They are in a spot where if that happens, Calgary has to run the table. Essentially, they can go 7-0-1 if Montreal goes 5-4, and that would only get them into a tie-break situation. So that's why I think a lot of Flames fans have said, yeah, you know what, it's probably time to say goodbye to this season. Is it completely done? By no means, because as Mike asks, how do you think the Canadiens will fare with their tough schedule? I don't know. I honestly have no idea how Montreal is going to fare. They have had troubles playing against Calgary. They have had, they've been up and down against other teams. They've played Toronto tough, though, this year. So I think that the problem is that Calgary needs help from Montreal, and needing help from another team is never where you want to be, especially when you also had they beaten Montreal on Monday, they still would have needed help. Had they swept the Habs in those 3 games, they still would have needed help. Now they don't sweep them. They're 6 back as opposed to 2 back. They need a lot of help, and they need to play some really good hockey. Is it impossible for the Flames to go 7-0-1? No, but they have only won 3 games in a row all season long. It would have to be a very drastic turnaround. They've got Edmonton twice, they've got Winnipeg once, they've got Ottawa once, and they've got 4 against Vancouver. We'll see. We'll see. I am not, like right now, the Athletics got them at 4%, and Sports Club Stats got them at 3.6% to make the playoffs. Those are not great odds. It's going to be pretty close to a miracle, but they're not mathematically done, and this thing isn't completely home and sealed. We'll see what Montreal does. Jason says the Flames should go hard after Brandon Saad. Can't see the Avalanche keeping him. You know, I don't know. I don't really. It's funny because Saad would be the type of guy that you'd go after if you're trying to stay competitive and if you're trying to stay in the playoff mix. And if that's the case, well then sure, I think Saad would be an interesting target to go after. I'd be curious what type of money he'd be chasing this offseason. But if you're of the opinion, like many who watch this program, many who read Flames Nation, many who listen to us on Sportsnet 960, believe it's now the time for the Flames to go in a different direction and not to continue trying to stay in the playoff hunt and thus trying to stay in the middle, because I think it's pretty clear that this group, at least as it's constructed now, is not going to be a Stanley Cup contender with this group. And so we'll see. We'll see what type of decisions the Flames make in the offseason, what type of offseason they undertake here. Here's one from Aaron. Face the facts. Calgary Flames are in the midst of a building phase, and it's not over yet. Times have changed. It's an ongoing issue. Today's NHL is a very unstable environment. The game is much more complicated and a lot faster than it was before. And my belief, Aaron, is that for you to be a Stanley Cup contending team in this day and age, you have to have elite hockey players, and you have got to have a number one center. You've got to have a high-end blue liner, and you've got to have a goalie. Well, you know, they've got Markstrom. I don't believe they have a number one center, although I like Elias Lindholm a lot. I don't know if he is that franchise center, and I don't know if they have got that number one defenseman to build around, albeit I do think Noah Hannafin has taken significant steps this year, and it's too bad he's done for the season, but I don't know if Hannafin's ever going to turn into a franchise defenseman. I think he can turn into a really good defenseman and has been a really good defenseman this year. I just don't know if franchise blue liner is in his future. So, yeah, I think the Flames have been trying to build, but are they going to be a team that in this build that they undertook starting going back into, the 2013 draft and even before that with the Jerome McGinley trade, is this build going to get them to the ultimate goal, and that is being a true Stanley Cup contender? I am skeptical of that myself, and we've had a lot of different conversations on that throughout the last number of weeks and months here on Flames Nation Live. Now, let me throw one other thing at you, and that is this from my latest at flamesnation.ca. It's on Matthew Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk is, and I'm not saying he's the sole reason. By no means do I think he is the sole reason why the Flames have had a really frustrating season. However, I will say that Matthew Tkachuk's struggles this year have got to be near the top of the list as to why they're having a down year, because that's how important Tkachuk has been to this team the prior 4 years. He has been one of the most important players on this team in each of the first 4 seasons that he's been in the NHL. This year, it has been far more of a struggle for him. And this year, it has been a complete drop-off for him offensively. And the numbers that he has posted at 5-on-5 are way off his career norms. But I do believe that there is a very good chance that this is kind of a one-off when it comes to Tkachuk, and this is just a down year, not necessarily the start of a downward trend. I think, as I wrote in the article at flamesnation.ca, a lot would suggest that Tkachuk is probably due for a bounce-back season next year. And if you're the Flames, knowing that he's the highest-paid player on the team and knowing that he's due a $9 million qualifying offer in just over a year, you're praying, crossing your fingers, hoping with all you've got that indeed he is in line for a bounce back season next year. Because if he's not, that's pretty scary. I think he is. I'm willing to. I'm pretty confident that this is just a down year from Tkachuk, but that also, if the Flames think otherwise, well, that also might determine their tact during the offseason, right? Like, I don't think there's anybody that is at this stage of the game. Can you tell that I spilled all over myself because I'm apparently barely a human? Can like I don't think at this stage where they are, I don't think anybody's untouchable on this team. There are guys that I'd want to move less. Like, I don't think I'm eager to move Hanifin or Lindholm or Mangiapane right now. You've got your young players that you're probably not eager to move unless it's in like a blockbuster trade. Tkachuk was near the top of that list. For some, I think he's dropped down with the season that he's had, but I don't think there's anybody untouchable when it comes to this team this summer. What else we got here? Let's get back to the comments because we went on the Tkachuk tangent there. So let's get a few of the other comments. This from Josh. I think Sutter's the wrong coach for any kind of rebuild. He is too good and overachieves to the point he always goes for the playoffs and not the draft pick. We've been through this before. This from Jason. I think Tkachuk might be hurt. He hasn't been good. I don't know. I honestly don't know if Tkachuk has been hurt. Everything I'm led to believe is no, but who knows? When it's all said and done at the end of the year, maybe we find something else. What else we got here? This continuing along from Jordan. Matt's issues are just weird. He really is a Sutter guy, but you can tell he doesn't care. Maybe he got sick of carrying a team that didn't want to try like him. I don't know. I'm not sure what the issue is. Something is off with Matthew Tkachuk. That much is very clear. There is something off with the way that he's played this year, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's only a mental thing, if he's been checked out this year. I don't know if there's an injury going on, but yeah, there's not a lot that you can love about the way he's played this year, specifically based on, like, he's still third on the team in scoring, but based on what we have come to know from Tkachuk, yeah, it is right off the cliff in terms of the way he. Now, I still think that his underlying numbers have been strong, and I still think he's an effective hockey player, and I still think that he's a smart hockey player, but it just has not been to the same degree that we're used to this year. I don't think you could argue that. Jason says he'd rather Landeskog for $9 million. I don't know if Landeskog's getting that type of money on the open market. I really don't, but Tkachuk is going into his final year of this 3-year, $21 million deal. I think he'll be a motivated guy. I think he'll have a chip on his shoulder. And I think he'll be a player that absolutely is motivated going into next season. And it's a contract year. Don't discount that. Contract years matter in the NHL. We always talk about them, and definitely you see it in contract years. This from Aaron again. I've developed a lot of like for Lucic right from the start. Calgary has a lot of heart and a lot of depth for many players. I find a lot of the players tend to play very smart hockey until they start losing. Then they get into a habit of individual efforts trying to carry the puck through the entire team instead of passing the puck. It's frustrating to watch. JF asks, is it official that Lucic will drop his no-trade clause? Well, JF, Lucic has got the full-on no move, so he can block anything, including expansion, if he wants. So the way a full no move works is that you have got full control. You can block waivers, you can block a trade, and you can also block being exposed for the expansion draft. However, it is my understanding, I've got it on very good authority from numerous places, that when the Flames acquired Lucic from Edmonton just a little under 2 years ago, that part of the deal was he would waive for the Seattle expansion draft, and they do have an agreement that he will waive his no-move deal. So I don't anticipate that, JF, being a problem. And if that does turn into a problem, I would be big time surprised for sure. Chucky drives the bus. Problem is, all the passengers are in the back. That from Josh. What else we got? Dylan says the Flames are going 5-1-2. The Habs will go 2-6-1. Dylan still keeping the faith with a 6-point gap with 8 points to go. Love the optimism, Dylan. Jeff asks, what about a bounce back next season for Monahan? I don't know. I'm a little more worried about Monahan just because, I don't know, the injuries, The production has dropped off now in each of the last 2 seasons. We believe he's playing through something, but we don't know for sure. I guess I'm just a little bit more worried on the Monahan front. I'm not saying there's not a chance, Jeff. I just am a little less confident with Monahan than I would be maybe with Tkachuk. From Travis, Pat, who says no, Johnny and Tkachuk with a pick for Eichel, and would you do that deal? Whew, I mean, that's a fascinating one. I don't know if that's what Buffalo's looking for. I think they'd be looking for a little bit more in terms of draft and prospect capital. I think they'd want one of those guys. I think that, Johnny or Tkachuk would be one of the guys. I don't know if both of them in a pick would get it done. I think one of them, a top prospect, and a couple of high picks would get it done. Like, so if you're talking maybe Tkachuk, Zary first, 2 firsts, like something like that, or Tkachuk, Zary first and a second. I think that's maybe more in the ballpark of what you're talking about for Eichel. And if that was the asking price, I would absolutely do that if I'm the Flames, if that would get it done from a Sabres standpoint. I just think the asking price for a guy like Eichel is going to be really, really high. JF does make a good point on Monahan. Hasn't been bad these last few games. I have seen some noted improvement from Monahan the last little bit. Zach's with us. First comment from Zach. He has untouchables as Valimaki Anderson, Lindholm, Tkachuk, Gaudreau, and Markstrom. Everyone else is fair game. Can't wait till the offseason, but still have a glimmer of hope for this club. It ain't over till it's over. Let's go Flames. That's too many untouchables for me, Zach. I don't think that you can say that there's that many untouchables. I would say 0 guys that are untouchable right now. I really do think the Flames need to think about making drastic changes to this roster. This roster hasn't worked. And, I'm not saying that you trade everybody. I'm just saying that there are no deals that I would say that I would hang up the phone for necessarily. No reasonable deals anyway that I would hang up the phone for. Obviously, ridiculous ones you definitely do. Travis, again, is Hanifin past Anderson on the depth chart? Well, they're different sides, left and right. But at least for me, that's the way I look at depth charts, Trav. But I think that Hanifin has definitely, like, if you were to rank the best defenseman on the team, I think he's probably passed him in that regard. And on what's interesting is Hanifin ready to overtake Giordano on the depth chart, or if Giordano isn't here after his contract expires, or perish the thought he's in Seattle next year with the expansion draft conversation, is Hanifin ready to step into top pairing left D minutes? I feel like he's more ready now than he has been at any point in the last number of years, and I'm really interested to see what Hanifin looks like next year. Now, Hanifin-Tanev was this team's number 1 pairing. Now it's Giordano and Tanev. They've looked very good together, but yeah, I think Hanifin's knocking on the door. We'll see how long this shoulder injury is for him to come back from, but I think Hanifin has taken some significant steps this year, and I think that he has turned himself from being a guy that, when we were doing this in the off season, I didn't think that moving him was the way to go, because I thought you had a lot of question marks on this team's blue line, but he's turned himself into pretty close to an untouchable. And that's good news, I think, because that's a 24-year-old with a great contract. And I think that whatever direction the Flames decide to go in this offseason, I think Hanifin can be a part of it, and a big part of it. JF says, even Johnny's been better lately, and for sure that'll be enough for Tree to keep both. I don't know. I honestly do not have a feel as to what way the Flames are going to go in the offseason. I know what I think they should do, but I don't have a feel as to which way they're going to go. Dylan says Mangiapane, the only untouchable. He's the real MVP. What? He's number 2 on the team in. He's number 2 on the team in even strength scoring. He's been dynamite this year, man. I agree, Dylan, that he has been one of the best, most consistent players on this team. And Mangiapane would be near the top of my list as guys that I wouldn't be trading. Eugene says, I feel fans would lose their minds if both Monahan and Gaudreau are here next year. I do believe it would be hard to sell this same group next year, especially if they end up missing the playoffs like it looks like they're going to. If they go on a crazy run and they go to the conference finals, well, I think the conversation shifts quite a bit. Do any of us really see that realistically happening? Probably not. Probably not in that regard. Good stuff, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Pike and I will be back with another edition of Flames Nation Live on Friday. So looking forward to that. A reminder, Flames Nation Live always brought to you by our friends at Deuce Vodka. Check them out at your local liquor store today. If they don't have Deuce Vodka, tell them to get it in stock. Thank you for stopping by. Be back on Friday. Enjoy the Battle of Alberta tomorrow night. We'll see where the Flames are when we're talking next time around on Friday here on Flames Nation Live. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, all of it, both Flames Nation. And if you want to follow along with me on Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth. Be well. Stay safe. We'll talk to you in a couple of days. It's been another edition of Flames Nation Live.